All right, good afternoon to you. I'm FOX26 meteorologist Remeisha Shade. It's time to track the tropics, and fortunately, at this point at least, nothing heading towards southeast Texas. It's been nice to get the break from at least systems impacting us here, but of course the last few weeks it's been a totally different story for parts of the U.S., particularly Florida and parts of the southeast U.S. where we've had to deal with Hurricane Helene and also most recently Hurricane Milton. With those systems and other tropical systems that we've had, we of course are up to 13 named storms so far for this season, very close to that average of 14, 9 of those becoming hurricanes. That is above the average of 7 hurricanes we usually have per season, and out of those, 4 have become major hurricanes, and normally we have about 3 of those hurricanes become category 3 or greater, which would be considered major. Of course, NOAA did put out a forecast earlier in the season calling for 17 to 24 named storms. We haven't reached that just yet, but we have reached that range of 8 to 13 hurricanes, and we are now into that range of 4 to 7 major hurricanes that they did forecast. So it's been a busy season and we could have more on the way. Hopefully we will get a break, but there's always the chance, with it still being hurricane season and with a La Nina pattern setting up with super warm water temps still, that we could have more action. Hopefully we don't, because we're still dealing with some of the impacts from Hurricane Milton in Florida. Several days later, still close to 80,000 people without power in and around Tampa for Hillsborough County, and across the state, still over 150,000 people still waiting for that power to be restored. Crews have been working hard because at its peak, those power outages soared above 3 million. So it certainly has been a lot of work that they've been putting in. They're making great progress, but still over 100,000 people without power. So hopefully they get it restored quickly. As far as what's going on right now, no additional named storms have popped up in the Atlantic Basin. Of course, that consists of the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, and Gulf of Mexico. But these are the 13 named storms that we've had so far, starting with Alberto early in the season all the way down to Milton. So we are hoping that we don't have to use any more of these names, but just in case, the next name on that list would be Nadine. Then we'd have Oscar, Patty, Raphael, Sarah, Tony, Valerie, and the last name on the list for this season would be William. But like I said, we're hoping we don't have to get that far down the list. However, we are monitoring another disturbance in the central Atlantic. This is the one we've been watching all week. Invest 94L projected to push towards the northeastern Caribbean islands by this weekend. So if it develops into a tropical depression or tropical storm, it could be impacting places like Puerto Rico. You see San Juan, Puerto Rico right there. It could roll over parts of Hispaniola, so Haiti, the Dominican Republic, potentially in the path of what could be our next tropical system. Right now, the chances are low that this would turn into a tropical depression or tropical storm over the next 48 hours, just a 30% chance. However, looking long term over the next week or so, that chance jumps up to a medium 50% chance. So we're going to have to watch this closely. This next system would be named Nadine, and we could have a tropical storm or maybe even a Hurricane Nadine by this weekend or early next week. And it's not going to just stay over open water. It likely would brush some of those northeastern Caribbean islands. So we are watching that one closely. Of course, if anything pops up, you'll be the first to know. We will keep you updated. Also, we are monitoring another area, a broad area of low pressure. This one is just off of that eastern coast of Central America. The area highlighted in yellow will be the area to watch for potential tropical development. There's an even lower shot of this happening basically over the next 48 hours, just a teeny tiny 10% chance that we would get a tropical system, and it only jumps up to a 20% low chance for the next 7 days. Of course, that means there is still a small risk, so we're watching things closely. Right now, we've got that broad area of low pressure, and it is very close to that Central American coast already. So there's a chance it could go ahead and make an early landfall, and we wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. But if it manages to stay offshore, it likely would track to the north or northwest, and it could get a little bit stronger and briefly become a tropical system. Would it make it to the Houston area? Would it push into the Gulf and maybe ride up towards Houston? Well, guess what? We've got our exclusive Fox Model Futurecast to answer that question. And right now it looks like the answer to that would be no. Let's take this into the future hour by hour, putting it into motion, and notice by tonight, still a disturbance very close to Central America. As we go into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it starts to get a little bit more organized. It does manage to stay over that warm water of the Western Caribbean Sea. However, it is getting close, likely by Friday night, to making landfall either over the Yucatan Peninsula or into parts of Central America. So as we go a little bit more into the future, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon through 10 p.m. Saturday night, notice this particular model has this system making landfall around the Yucatan Peninsula and northern portions of Central America. That would be good news because that would mean an early landfall and we wouldn't have to worry about it in the Gulf of Mexico or up towards the Houston area. So of course we will keep a close eye on it, but the chances are definitely higher that the landfall would occur either in Mexico or Central America and not the Texas Gulf Coast. So that is some very good news. We've already been hit once this season by Hurricane Beryl back on July 8th, and hopefully that will be all we'll have to deal with, at least in the Houston area, for the rest of the season. But you know, we've had multiple Gulf Coast systems hit this season, so we could all use a break. However, we're still monitoring things closely because the water temperatures out there are still super warm, still soaring into the 80s. And as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to switch from what we call an El Nino pattern to a La Nina pattern. So that usually favors more development in the tropics. So still there is a shot we could have a few more systems pop up on us for the last few weeks of October. Best chance for that happening would be the Western Atlantic down to the Western Caribbean and into the southern southeastern portions of the Gulf of Mexico. So that area in orange would be some of the hot spots, some of the areas with the higher likelihood of that tropical cyclone formation. As we jump into November, typically, historically, the chance for hurricanes, tropical storms really starts to diminish. So notice there's still a few hot spots, the areas in the yellow where we have a low shot for potential development, parts of the central and western Atlantic, western parts of the Caribbean, not really a super high chance at all in the Gulf of Mexico. We can't rule it out completely, but chances really drop for the month of November. So of course we will continue to monitor things. However, it looks like things are kind of starting to calm down just a little bit. We do have those two potential tropical systems that we're monitoring, one in the Western Caribbean and one in the Central Atlantic. However, no tropical storms at this point, no hurricanes. Hopefully we can keep it that way. However, we've still got about a month and a half to get through before we can say this hurricane season is completely over. So we are tracking things closely. But just notice between now and the end of hurricane season on November 30th, the trend is downward as far as the chance of named storms and that chance for hurricanes. So we'll be monitoring it closely, but there's still a low shot. We could have Nadine and maybe a few additional systems after that over the next week or two. But so far, for the next few days, nothing that will be a threat for the Houston area over the next couple of days. So that will do it for your tropical update for today. Remember to stay safe out there. Even when things are quiet, it's a great time to review your emergency plan just in case a hurricane or tropical storm is coming. Make sure you have the supplies that you need, know your evacuation routes, go over your insurance, do those things while it's quiet so you don't have to scramble at the last minute. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist Remeisha. Enjoy the rest of your day.